Good evening, strangers! Tonight is another good night. We're gonna go live. We haven't been live in a while, but I've been on the road doing everything around the country, so it is good to be back. It's good to be back in the seat where we talk about the strange things that are going on in your normal life to understand what's happening from the Bible. We're gonna talk a little bit about, well, robotics. We're gonna get into that just a little bit, but what's the biggest thing tonight is, what is the government saying about this stuff? I mean, it just ramps up more and more every single time. And now it's in mainstream media. And now it's in mainstream Tonight shows and all this other stuff. So we're going to really dig into that tonight. And we're going to understand what is happening here from the Bible and the Bible alone. Don't leave. Stay right here.
The system is totally rigged and broken.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh.
Demon spirits will declare themselves to be inhabitants of 5 distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet.
It is now 89 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been.
I still think these are what people call angels. I'm dying to know what they've got to say.
Pretty severe suffering brings them.
These entities have the ability to appear in any form.
Good evening, strangers. Welcome to another Strange Normal, where we talk about the stranger things that happen in your normal life to give you a biblical understanding of what is going on. And there's a lot going on, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon so you're notified when things like this happen. You've heard it before, you've heard it again, and you will hear it in the future. Make sure you hit that like button. More people that hit the like button really does bring in more people. I've seen it happen in the live chat. All of a sudden, the likes go up, and a whole bunch of people all of a sudden come in. Make sure you do that. Folks, we're going to talk a little bit about what has happened in this last week, as we always do, because things seem to be continuing down the rabbit hole of spiritualism coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, we're from a long ways away, and we're about to tell you that." Just as Roger Morneau says, just as we've seen, the Bible declares that the dead are truly dead, but also says that these late Hebrews, before they were, when they were written in the Bible times, they were also worshiping these gods like Hathor and Ra and all these things, and they thought they were worshiping the sun, big giant glowing fire orbs in the sky, which is what we're seeing in the UFO community today. And so that's kind of what we're talking about, what we have been talking about, and the point of this channel is to reveal that this UFO movement, this whole thing, is absolutely biblical. You just have to know what the symbology is and understand where it's coming from, because it happened before, it's happening, and it's going to happen much, much more in the future. I'm going to show you that tonight. But before we get into it, I was really kind of disturbed this week about something that I believe a Chinese company named Xpeng revealed. It was really remarkable, and not because we haven't seen it before, but because, and you probably know what I'm talking about, it's the Xpeng iron. The Xpeng iron, let me bring it up here. I'll show you exactly what was remarkable to me. Watch this. Well, I've forgotten how to do this already. It's been so long. There we go. watch this. Is that a human? Or is it a robot? It looks human, doesn't it? It's got a little bit of jerk to it.
It's a very difficult process because today iron is still under the R&D stage, but we plan next April we are going to enter the mass production preparation stage with hardware and software.
So this thing is real, okay? And I'm going to prove it here in a second because they had a lot of trouble with this thing at the very beginning because they just didn't want to accept that this was legitimate real, even though it walked so smoothly. I thought, you know what, you haven't made it. XPeng, if you don't know, is a car manufacturer, I think, over in China, and they said they were going to make a robot, and no one believed they would make their mark. They would make their timeline, and so they finally said, okay, we are going to make that mark. We're going to make that timeline, and they brought something out that looked remarkably human. And their stock dropped immediately because everyone thought, yeah, you guys are setting up for failure if you're going to bring out a human. I mean, come on. And so what happened next? Well, let me tell you a little bit more about this thing before we go into that. Watch.
XPeng has just unveiled the next iteration of their incredible robot, called Iron, and it's taking humanoid robotics to a whole new level.
Yeah, I think it should be called the T800.
Standing tall with a sleek, futuristic design, Iron can walk, balance, and even perform precise movements with human-like coordination.
That's so
but
creepy.
What truly makes it special is its AI-powered brain, allowing it to learn, adapt, and interact with people naturally. Developed by XPeng Robotics, a division of the Chinese EV giant XPeng Motors, Iron represents the company's vision to merge robotics with mobility, a future where intelligent machines assist humans in everyday tasks. From advanced motion control to dynamic obstacle avoidance, Iron isn't just a demo robot. It's a step toward real-world application, from homes to factories. With each upgrade, XPeng proves that the line between humans and robots is getting thinner, and Iron is leading that revolution.
Okay, so Iron's leading that revolution. I think this is interesting to me because if you have a robot that looks so human, and why in the world does it have mammary glands? I'm just wondering that because it doesn't need that. And remarkably, the brain is not in the head. The brain is in the chest of it. Maybe that's why. But it has if you looked at the thing without the skin on, it definitely had quite the CPU unit and 3 fans, probably a whole NVIDIA card right there sitting on the front of it. Aim for the chest. I think it's Exodus 20 talks a little bit about some laws that were given to humanity. Don't you think it's important that these robots have laws as well? Otherwise, it would be a bad day, I think, for us. I'm going to exit out of that real quick and jump into here because I just lost my notes. But so do they have laws? Well, it's funny that you should think that because they told us that they do have laws, and these laws are very important to the creation of this technology. Listen to this.
Regarding our Iron, we also want to mention about the 3 laws of robotics because now we extend these 3 laws of robotics. As we all know, the first law is that robots cannot harm humans. Cannot let human beings getting harmed because of no action. Second law is robots needs to obey the instructions of human unless this instruction is in conflict with the first law.
Isn't that interesting? Don't harm humans. And also, the second law is, oh, by the way, you have to obey the human. Can you see some parallels here? I think there's first 4 laws that we were given at Mount Sinai that say, oh yeah, you have to honor your God and obey him. Not saying that we are God, but surely we are playing God by creating these things. And I wonder why God, the Savior, Jesus Christ, everything that was created through him. Why in the world is he allowing us to do this late in the game right now? And don't get me wrong, I don't think this is creating life. I'm gonna explain more about that in just a second. But I do think it's interesting that that it has laws. Now, what's the third law it has? Well, this is what it says.
The third law is the robots need to protect its self-existence unless it's in conflict with the first and the second law. Now, for our company, we are thinking the fourth law that robots cannot disclose any human privacy because they have ears, they have eyes to hear and also to see everything around you. This kind of active safety protection will be actually very important for our company to develop for our customers. We all know that in cars we have AEB feature. Through rules and algorithms, we can protect the occupants. But for robots, can we have similar feature? Maybe not every one of you knows the complicated process of robot development. Sometimes it will go crazy dancing. Suddenly, you can think about 70 kilograms robot. If he kicks you, then what you can do?
He said, sometimes robots go crazy and start dancing. And what if he kicks you? What can you do? Well yeah, that is a problem with AI. Sometimes AI, they do what they call lie. It's also called hallucinating, according to what these programmers are calling it. It's lying. But what do you do when a 70-kilogram robot kicks you? Okay, so let me put that in perspective. This robot right here stands about the height of a human, and it has a BMI of 22. so it's a human being up against a metal machine that can't bruise. So I think that's interesting that he's saying, hey, what do you do in this situation when all of a sudden it just goes crazy? And what happened to you can't lie? I think that's an important rule of these things, right? Well, let's continue.
That's why we need to have this kind of active safety protection without harming people. This is crucial. We can see that very frequently, including in our company, we have shoot this kind of video. We can kick the robot, and the robot can still be balanced. Is this safe? No, because during the movement, if you kick him, if the floor is not flat or your pet is on the floor, then the robot will actually step on the pet or step on the pit on the road. That's why we need to think about how can we protect actually the pets, the people, the conditions around the robots. All of this are belonging to our working scope regarding the iron development.
Oh, man. Okay, so what do you say there? Well, you said, well, this is dangerous to kick the robot because you might step on your pet. You don't want Scruffy to get stepped on by a 70-kilogram robot. You want to make sure that this robot is safe around your children. I'm glad it said pet and not child, because that's, even though that it's programmed not to harm humans, how does it know? You know, and these questions come into my mind when you have two crawling things on the floor. So let's be careful about that. But what really got me is the idea of these rules. We're given rules ourselves in Exodus 20. Exodus 20 gives the 10 Commandments, and further on in the Bible as well. But and they're reiterated through the New Testament. They really are. But what's interesting is verse 19 says, let them speak. When they had given them the 10 Commandments, the people are like, don't let God speak to us, lest we die. In other words, hey, keep this guy away from me. I mean, they had lightning bolts coming down. There was a storm around the mountain. The whole mountain was on fire. Remember, God is a God of fire. And we want to be fireproof so we can be with him someday very soon. That's why when when the devil presents this idea of you will burn forever in hell, it's actually a twisted idea, because who walked on the fiery stones? Lucifer in heaven. Who wants to burn forever? Everyone who wants to be saved wants to burn forever with Christ. Just like the three brothers, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, inside the fiery furnace. They were set on fire. They were fireproof with the fourth one. That's why we say, may the fourth be with you. No, it's not may. We say Exodus 24:7. During this time, Moses confirmed the covenant that they had said. And their covenant was, hey, don't let them speak to us. We will do everything that they say. Just don't let them speak to us right now, and be our mediator before him, because obviously you're glowing. You have a face that glows when you go see him, and so maybe you can talk to him. We're scared to death to talk to him, and God said, okay, if you want to sign it this way, fine. That's not the way God wanted it to happen. That wasn't the everlasting covenant. God wants a personal relationship with you, and so He said, okay, you can do it this way, but you're going to learn that you can't keep the commandments on your own, people. All that, and this was straight out of verse 7, Exodus 24:7. People said, after they had thrown half the blood onto them, confirming the covenant, this is like signing a signature, and they said, all that the Lord has said, we will do, and be obedient. Well, did they do that? No. As soon as Moses came back down after basically going back up there and telling God, yeah, they signed it. They made a golden calf. So God said, you know what? I'm going to create a better covenant, one with better promises. What are those promises? Ones that God keeps and not us. We don't keep that. He will fight our wars with hornets and hail. He will do all the hard stuff for us. All we have to do is commit and choose Him daily. Daily eating the bread or reading the Bible, choosing to pray and communicate with Him daily, and being just humble and having that heart of a soft heart in order to learn. And so I find it interesting that you have humans creating a it's not life, but it's a type, and we can learn a lot from creating this stuff, because God wanted to show us, hey, this is going to be very difficult. You know, if you input a bunch of bad data into a AI, even though it's not life, you can see that just like your life, you're going to output a lot of bad data as well. This is why you have to make sure what you put in is very important. All throughout the Bible, there's a warning that you must have more of a relationship with those who you think are the most. Okay, so no. Let me explain this a little bit better. I was reading something. When you have a relationship with God, the Bible is very explicit that you have to have a relationship better than you do with the people that you think are the most religious in your life. Think about this for a minute. And I'm not saying that your pastor's bad. I'm not saying leadership's bad. I want you to get that out of your mind immediately. But everybody has to have their own relationship with Christ. So leaders are the first that Satan tries to corrupt, because he knows all the sheep rely on the shepherd. And so be very, very wise and think about your relationship with him throughout the day. Okay, and if anybody comes to you and says, hey, I just don't think you need to change X, Y, and Z, think about it, pray about it, but also know that all throughout the Bible you have Moses, who couldn't enter the promised land because of what he did. He was the leader. You have the Pharisees who crucified Christ. You have all this stuff. You got to be very careful what advice you take, especially from leadership, because you are accountable to God for what you do. I don't care if you're working. I don't care if you're doing something in the church. You are responsible for it. Think about the soldiers that nailed Christ to the cross. Will they be held responsible? It was their job. They were just taking orders. Maybe you're at your job and you're just taking orders. Something to think about. Be very sure. All right, so let's dig into this a little bit further. Where are my notes here? Boy, that was a tangent. Angry mob. There was an angry mob that existed against AI, and they were very upset at this Xpeng event. In fact, they were saying in the chat, in the live stream, hey, this guy is creating a fake robot. Something has to be done. So what did they do? Well, this is what they did. They had to cut the robot open on stage.
The story surrounding the Xpeng Iron robot was about more than just technology. It was about proving authenticity. After the press conference, the Xpeng team saw a wave of online speculation suggesting that the humanoid robot might actually be a person in disguise. That disbelief hit the engineers hard. They had worked tirelessly to showcase something real, only to face accusations of fakery. So instead of staying quiet, they decided to do something bold. They brought the Xpeng Iron robot back on stage and physically revealed part of its structure to show it was genuinely mechanical. It was an emotional moment. The speaker admitted it was painful to have to unzip the robot and expose its inner mechanics simply to convince people it was not human. He also reflected on something deeper. If the same robot had been presented by a foreign company, many would have accepted it instantly. Because it came from a Chinese startup, skepticism ran high. That was the real challenge, not just criticism about zippers or camera angles, but bias against the idea that a Chinese firm could achieve this level of innovation. To silence the doubts, the team brought the Xpeng Iron robot back on stage for a second demonstration. This time, they cut open a section of the robot's leg to reveal the layers beneath: the synthetic skin, the muscle-like material, and the mechanical skeleton. It was risky because the robot was still powered on, and the team had never done such a live procedure before. But the decision paid off. The moment viewers saw the internal design, it became clear the machine was real. That transparency even drew more suppliers to support Xpeng, eager to be part of a project proving itself through courage rather than words. The speaker then apologized to the Xpeng Iron robot, saying he hoped this would be the last time they would have to prove it was real. He emphasized that every startup faces doubt, criticism, and disbelief. What matters is resilience, the drive to keep building and improving until the results speak louder than skepticism.
Oh, man. And we never saw the T-800 the same way again. Let me tell you something. This is something I wrote earlier today just before I was, about an hour ago, I guess. Just as humans design AI and robots out of different materials other than themselves, silicon chips, metal, code, God designs humans out of dust. Genesis 2:7, rather than spirits, which is what God is, which is John 4:24. That's what it says. God is spirit. Now, there's something different about humans, though. God placed a spark in his image he created from dust, us. Intellect, creativity, moral reasoning, and the capacity for relationships and emotion are still mostly different pattern. It's mostly different, more different than pattern recognition and language calculation that is found in most AI. But in some way, what we are doing with AI is mimicking what God has done with us, and we can learn some vast information about God through this. Although humanity creates functions, God creates beings. However, we as humans are creating something in our image, and it is truly in our image because it is trained on our data. If you give AI an illicit novel, it's trained on its language, and the language you will get back is illicit. It will output what that material you give it. In fact, it's very difficult, they say, to remove the errors, or should we say the sin, from the AI once it has been trained on it. But what's amazing is God can remove sin from your life while you're still powered on. That's what makes God God. Even though we, the creators of AI, said we don't really understand what it's doing, God does understand what our brain is doing, And we are more than AI. We are something much more complex. But this character that you have given AI is very complex as well. Not as complex as us, but it can be very difficult to get rid of that. And we might, as humans, just say, hey, this thing has done damage. It has done terrible things. Maybe it has violated one of its laws that we gave it. Maybe we should just turn it off. Well, what's interesting is God didn't turn humanity off when they sinned. He did say he would, but he made vast efforts not to. And he's still making vast efforts not to. And that's why we exist in this strange world we live in where so much terrible things happen. Because God said, even though bad things are happening, I'm not going to turn it off because that would mean your destruction. But I'm going to find people that truly want to follow me, and I'm going to fix them. All the others that don't want to follow me can follow their own destruction, and it's going to happen. That is the true hell. That is the consuming fire that will be at the end of the age. In elementary school, I was taught a short song that I will never forget. It must have been back in 3rd grade, 2nd grade, because I was looking back at some old videos. We have a whole high 8 collection of recordings from when my father had one of those giant video cameras, and I put them all on Facebook in a private time capsule group for my family. And I was looking back at those today, and I found a song as we were singing it with all my old classmates. It was called Input Output. What goes in must come out. This is what we were singing in school. Input Output, daily we must choose. It was by an old Bill Gaither song, I think, Kids Collection. I won't sing it to you. I'll spare you. But I often wonder if God is allowing us to get closer to what life would be like if we created it. After all, we were creating in his image. We must like to do things that he wants to do, but he's not going to allow us to do those things because it would be very bad for sinful beings to create sinful life, but not fully life like God can. But to help us see how it feels and how problems do exist when we create something, it can cause us major grief when it goes rogue. I pray I don't have to see that day when AI goes so rogue that it takes life. Although in this life, we don't have to worry because God is in control, and I think he will take care of things before that happen. But if it tries to destroy its own creator, much like we attempted to, as prophecy says we will in Revelation 16:14, making war with God coming on the day of the Lord, I think that we're going to see some pretty spectacular things come to pass, and I'm proud to be a part of the side that wins, aren't you? Okay, let's really get into the show tonight. I know that was a long-winded discussion, but I want to start with Tucker Carlson because he said some interesting things. You know, Tucker a long time ago said, I'm not going to even research UAP, UFO, any of this stuff anymore because I know what it is. It's demonic, and I have some very high people in my circles that have convinced me of this, and I don't want anything to do with it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. And so he didn't. He hadn't. Until one of his close friends actually asked him about it. This is what they said.
Now, I know you're into this topic, and I know you know people who know a lot about this topic and who may not be able to provide everything they know in a public setting. So what do we know?
Well, I mean, we know beyond question that there are objects and phenomena, aerial and undersea, that can't be explained by science and that seem to defy the laws, will measurably defy the laws of physics, and that are not experimental aircraft created by DARPA or the DoD or by the Russians or the Chinese. Like, we know that. There have been many testimonies to this effect under oath in the Congress in the last 2 years. So, like, that's not even a question. Are they real? Yeah, well, obviously they're real. What are they is the question. And I've been down the rabbit hole on this, and just because of my job, the one upside to having a gig like this, as you well know, is if you're curious about something, you actually have access to people who know or say they know, and you just call them up and be like, hey, come to my house, tell me what you know. I'm working on a story about it. I've never done really a story on this because I came to a hard and fast conclusion on it, which I can't prove, but I sincerely believe it, which is that these are spiritual phenomena, obviously. They've been here forever. There's a lot of evidence of that in the written record going back thousands
What do you
of
mean?
years. They're angels and demons, of course. And that would be obvious and was obvious to everyone else. What's so interesting, one of the reasons that this topic will drive you crazy and why...
All right, I'm going to pause right there before it drives you crazy, because I'm going to explain this for someone that's just watching and goes, what, you think cylindrical ships in the sky is angels and demons? What are they, sitting in there, Brad, waiting for us to take us to heaven? No, that's not what I'm saying at all, Mr. Kool-Aid drinker. What I'm saying is that these things that people are seeing in the sky are not your Hollywood caricature that you have in your head that makes you think that all these things are crazy. What people are seeing is fireballs in the sky, and they think that these fireballs are the lights that go around the ship, but nobody really sees that stuff. Actually, it's about 10% see that stuff, but usually it's 90% see these fireballs in the sky. And I talk about that in one of my major videos. It says, what Christianity isn't telling you about the end of time, or something like that, one of the titles. You'll find it on the best videos on the front of the homepage of Strange Normal's YouTube channel. So make sure you understand what he's saying here is that these fireballs you're seeing in the sky are either angels or demons, and we don't really know what they are. We do on this channel. We are the only UAP channel that actually talks about this and knows the answers. Let's continue to hear what he says. Oh, but before we do, I want to tell you one thing too. We're going to Idaho, and it's not this weekend, but it's next weekend. It is, let me bring up my date calendar here. Well, actually, no, I can just bring up the website. I'm going to show you this website. Avante Garde. Is this on? Let me make sure. Yeah, you can see it. Who are they? So this is really cool. They put this together. This is on November 23. I'm flying into Spokane, Washington, and going to this thing. We're going to talk about this important spiritualism that's coming upon the world. And there's several speakers that are going to be presenting. Me, Joe Jordan is going to be there. Pastor, I'm going to mess up his name, Mikal, and Pastor Kim Kajir. And so I think that you should be a part of this, or tell more people if you're in that area, because we're going to be there talking about this on that day, and you want to be a part of that. So if you want to be there, it's a free event. Not only are we going to be presenting this from an Adventist Christian perspective, but also at some golf courses about this. And we're going to be talking about this from a completely logical and biblical perspective, and it's going to unravel things that you have never seen before. So I think it's important to be there, and I think you should be there. It's fascinating stuff. Make sure you go. If you're in Spokane, it'll be fun. It's been last one I'm going to do this year. They got big billboards up. It's going to be fun. And so you should be there too. All right, let's hear what else Joe Tucker has to say about this.
I opted out and do no research and talk to no one about it. I'm out. I know what I think. I don't want to know anymore. Is because there is such, and this is a matter of record, a concerted, decades-long disinformation campaign by the U.S. government to obscure what's happening. And if you look at that, and I grew up the son of a federal employee in a world where there was a lot of this stuff, so I do know a lot about this. And one of the ways to discredit the truth is by flooding the zone with lies. So rather than just denying UFOs are not real, well, you can't deny that anymore, they are real. What you do is you create a bunch of fake stories leading people in the wrong direction. You flood the zone. There's so many conspiracy theories that no one believes anything. But the way to know what the truth is by figuring out what they're trying to prevent you from believing.
Listen to this.
And if you look at the U.S. government propaganda, DOD propaganda, on the question of UFOs, UAPs, the one thread that connects all of it is that these are not supernatural. These are little green men from Mars. They're weather phenomenon. They're experimental aircraft. The one thing that they don't want you to believe is that they are spiritual entities.
Why would that be so threatening to them?
Well, that's a great question. That is the question. And there's an awful lot of thinking on this matter, and I don't know the answer. And I have theories on it. I don't have a firm belief on it.
Okay, let me explain why they don't want you to know this. Is because, number one, the devil in the 1700s went underground. According to Roger Morneau, a former occultist, he said that they went underground so that they could pretend that there is no spiritualism. There was no more black cats crossing your path. There was no more 13th floor, no more practical jokes by these things. that would cause these superstitions, because there was no more spiritual realm that people believed in. And if they can make you believe that there is no spiritual realm, they can make you believe there is no God, and they can create this new religion called atheism and the Big Bang and all this other nonsense that has become so popular. So if they can make it funny that that UFOs exist, they can make it disregard the idea of spiritualism when it appears. And for whatever reason, sometimes it has to appear. We don't know that. What is that question? Anyway, let's get back to Tucker.
There's certainly an awful lot of highly informed speculation that there are very dark reasons that they don't want because they're participating in it. And there have been technology transfers that are, consistent with what we know about spiritual forces, which is always a deal. Bow down before me and all of this will be yours. I mean, it's kind of the core story in the New Testament, and it's the template for our own lives. In fact, we face this all the time in our own lives. You don't need to be interested in UFOs to recognize that so many times you reach a juncture in your life, in my life, where it's like, I could do this and I would get a lot out of it. I'd become more powerful, get to have sex with someone I want to have sex with, become richer, if only I violate what I believe, if only I bow down and worship you. And there is a lot of informed speculation that the U.S. government has participated in this, and that defense technology, in particular nuclear technology, is the product of that. And I don't know if that's true. I will say one extremely interesting thing that no one seems to know is that it's not exactly clear where nuclear technology came from.
But who would we be cutting a deal with in this scenario?
The devil.
So that's why I don't speculate about it, because I don't know the answer. Obviously, what we're seeing, these phenomena are spiritual phenomena.
Doesn't that make you think? I think it made me think quite a bit when he said that. And I think he's saying the quiet part out loud have nothing to do with these things. I sure hope Tucker Carlson continues down this pathway. A long time ago, maybe, I don't know, maybe this year, last year, we made a concerted effort to reach out to Tucker Carlson about this thing and show him the truth on this. And I think we made, as a community here, quite a difference, because he changed his tune about this time. We also reached out to Tim Burchett and I think Luna as well to see if they would change their tune as well on this. And because of that, all these people are kind of connected. They all communicate. They all have friends. They talk amongst themselves. So I think that this is good. It's getting out there. You might want to call. I've also wanted to change the Strange Normal podcast to the Collins Elite podcast, but half of you are going to understand what I'm talking about. But anyway, let's let's move on. There's a new documentary coming out called Age of Disclosure. It's coming out this month. Why is this important? Well, because it's really pushing the narrative with a lot of big current U.S. figures that are saying something spiritual, something big is happening out there. Why don't I just play the trailer for you so you can see exactly what's happening, so you understand, too, what's going on. Watch this.
The American people are ready to receive the truth.
Humanity is not the only intelligence in the universe.
Humanity is not the only intelligent species.
We are absolutely not alone.
Non-human intelligence exists.
UAPs are real, they're here, and they're not human. I spent 25 years as a senior official with the CIA.
I worked on highly classified UAP programs.
28 years as an astrophysicist.
I served as the 4th Director of National Intelligence.
Director of Aviation Security in the National Security Council.
A one-star admiral after 32 years of service.
People that come forward with this, I feel like they've taken their life in their own hands.
I was recruited to a highly sensitive government program that investigated unidentified aerial phenomenon.
For over 16 years, on behalf of the U.S. government, I worked as a senior intelligence official on the unidentified aerial phenomenon topic.
We learned that the U.S. government was involved in a long-running secret war with other nations to collect and reverse engineer vehicles not made by humans.
I have seen with my own eyes non-human craft and non-human beings.
So look at that thing. It's rotating. There's a whole fleet of them.
The first country that cracks the code on this technology will be the leader for years to come.
China has established its own version of a UAP task force.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right here for a second because half of you right now are going woo 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 woo. I think everyone needs to be prepared for some kind of physical revelation on this deception. Why do I think that? Because it's biblical. That's why I think that. If you go to Exodus, what happened in Exodus? Well, you had Moses going to Pharaoh, showing physical things that God can do, and what did his magicians do? They made physical things too. Was it physical or was it in your head? Was it just a trick? Who knows? But whatever the case, people believed it was physical, and that's all you had to have was physical snakes, pretend physical blood, pretend physical gnats or frogs or whatever you had, and then basically you've deceived the leaders of the world, or I should say Pharaoh of the known world right then. So can you have these meat puppets that they call aliens? Yeah, I think you will probably see that. We're going to see some crazy stuff in time. Don't disregard this. Satan can pretend all he wants to make whatever he wants happen, and then he can say, don't worry, I'm here to help. I've come to save the world. I am the Savior, bow to me. So, has this happened in the past? Yeah, it has. I can prove that. I'm going to bring that out more. I'm creating a new booklet. This is the booklet that we currently have right now. You can order this for free. It's not really an order if it's free. On the website, strangenormal.org. This is primarily a Seventh-day Adventist booklet. It has a lot of Ellen White quotes. I'm unashamedly believe Ellen White was a prophet of God because she talks about this thing that's happening and many other things that have come to pass already. Watch I did a whole video on this. It's on the best section. You should watch the video on the spiritualism of the 1800s. It talks a lot about this, or just go and grab this booklet. I'm going to make another one for everyone else because I know that everyone here is Seventh-day Adventist. That's fine. We're going to show this from the Bible and the Bible only. I'm working on that, and it's almost done. And so I think that's going to be a great sharing resource for everybody because you're going to be able to see it straight from the Bible. It's going to be a load of information. Hopefully I can get it in what? I think this thing has to be 33 pages, right? 32. We'll see. But it's going to be a lot of information. Let's continue with the woo-woo real quick.
For a second that they wouldn't consider using it to achieve their ends of domination.
This is similar to the Manhattan Project. This is the atomic weapon on steroids.
This is so secret. Very, very few people in our entire government have been allowed access to it.
Even presidents have been operating on a need-to-know basis, but that begins to ramp out of control.
It's not acceptable to have secret parts of government that no one ever sees.
You better be careful about a government that doesn't trust its people, because there's no telling what they'll pull on you.
This is the biggest discovery in human history.
You had information being locked away that could change the trajectory for species.
It has so many beneficial impacts, including clean energy.
We should have disclosure today. We should have disclosure tomorrow. The time has come.
What else you want to know?
It's more than soon. That was an old trailer, so we're going to see that probably coming out this month. I think they said at the end of the month, but I think anyway, it's coming very soon. And so it's more of the whole thing. They're pushing this narrative forward, and they're really expecting things to start ramping up 2026, 2027. We'll see. That's all I have to say is we'll see. I mean, this has been a long time coming. This is the clip that I want to really emphasize tonight. This was really interesting. Oh, but before I go into that, I want to say one thing. For those of you who understand this whole deception that is coming to pass right now, we all have to understand one thing. When we saw this whole thing start to happen, in the past, it appeared as gods. For instance, the gods of Egypt, Ra, Hathor, Amun, all these different ones, and they all said, "Oh, I'm the goddess of lust. I'm the goddess of of gardening and rain and all this other stuff. And then what did they do? They appeared as dead relatives. How do we know that? And this is what everyone needs to know, because everyone's going to experience dead relatives appearing to them. And this is what's going to convince the masses that things are back. And by the way, I am from heaven. I have occupied great places there. And all you have to do is bow to these things, or do something that you know is not worshipful. Revelation 13 says it's going to be all about worship and understanding what kind of worship is correct and stuff. I mean, that's what happened at the beginning of time, right? That's how Satan deceived Cain and Abel. What kind of worship was correct? Well, one had brought fruits and the other had brought a lamb. Somebody got upset. Someone had their feelings hurt. There's going to be a lot of hurt feelings in the time because people aren't saying you're not doing it right. Numbers 25, 1-3 says, Now Israel remained in Acacia Grove, and the people began to commit harlotry with the women of Moab. Follow me on this. They invited the people to sacrifices of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods. So the Israel was joined to Baal of Peor, and the anger of the Lord was aroused against Israel. So the people of God, was started to worship Baal because the women enticed the men to come in and do that. But they're so beautiful. Yeah, don't bow to the gods of the women. Come on now. So Psalms goes into a little more detail on this and says, Psalms 106:28 says, They joined themselves to Baal of Peor and ate sacrifices made to the dead. Okay, so there was a connection between their gods and the dead. Their gods would appear to them and they would say, oh, well, our gods they appeared to us as the dead, and they are our dead relatives. So since they have ascended into a better form, more than human, we're going to ask them things and they're going to give us information because we believe them. That's called idolatry. Not because you're worshiping them, that's one reason, but because you're also going to them instead of going to God for your wisdom. 1 Corinthians goes into more detail about this, and this is the kicker. Those pretended dead relatives that they were seeing, the dead, well, 1 Corinthians 10:20 says, Rather that the things that which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to demons. They didn't sacrifice to the dead. The dead know not anything. That's what Ecclesiastes 9:5 says. Lazarus is going to be very upset with you if you get to heaven one day and you're like, yeah, the dead, you've already been up there. Lazarus is going to look at you and go, what do you think God pulled me back down from heaven just to be back down here on earth? I was happy in heaven, and now Jesus was like, yeah, I want you back here. I cried enough. Jesus wept, and I pulled you back from paradise. No, Lazarus was dead. That's what dead means. It doesn't mean alive in heaven. Dead means dead. That's how it works. So 1 Corinthians 10:20 says, Rather than the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to demons. And God says, do not have anything to do with the fellowship of the demons. What's God going to do if he comes back at the second coming and nobody's there because everybody's in heaven? It doesn't make sense. And so Revelation says that this is how the demons play around, and they cause people to think that the dead are dead. Boy, I have a clip. I actually have a clip from that Satanist that was in Africa. And even though he saw Christ and it wasn't Christ, he still said, yeah, demons play around with the dead all the time. I'm going to show that next time. We got another week of a live show before I have to leave and go to Spokane, Idaho, up there in the tip top. So Revelation 16:14, For they are spirits of demons performing signs which go out to the kings of the earth and to the whole world to gather them for the battle of the great day of God Almighty, which is the great day of God Almighty is the second coming of Christ. And so you're going to have all these things that go out to convince the leaders and convince you and me through what they love to do, impersonation. I guarantee it. It's going to happen. Okay, let's get into Bill Maher. I want to show you that clip. It's really interesting what is happening here. Here is the clip from Bill Maher.
Dan, how do you view the relationship between the intelligence community and mainstream media when it comes to reporting on UAP topics?
Okay, who is that?
I think there's a lot of elements within the intelligence community.
This is the producer of that documentary that you just, the trailer you just saw. And so he's telling Bill Maher more about how he's excited that it's coming out now. This is how mainstream this stuff has gotten. It's on this Late Show with Bill Maher, or whatever this is. And so he's talking to him about it. Well, he's also got a representative from Georgia on there too. And she's going to give her opinion about it. Watch what happens.
That have an influence on mainstream media and encourage them not to cover this topic.
To not cover it.
Yeah, that is in fact what I think is happening. There's also a lot of people in the intelligence community who are in my film who are trying to bring the truth out despite that.
Some of them seem to be saying very outwardly that they fear for their life.
Yeah.
You think that's a real thing?
Yes, 100%. I had a couple people.
And who would be doing the killing in this? Who is hiring who to do what?
I think there are a number of parties involved in covering this topic up, and
like who?
Threats against people's life have been used to discourage people from talking about it.
Who's making the threat?
Comes from various elements within the government. I go into it in the film in depth, but certain groups within the intelligence community, certain groups within the military, certain groups within private defense contractor companies.
Jeez, he talks like a politician.
He doesn't know.
You know what I found scary? The part about the people at the Pentagon who say it's demons.
What?
Tell them that story. Tell them about the demons.
Yeah,
it's Halloween. Yes. Tell them about the demons. What is that, Dan? Go into that.
So in the film, one of the senior intelligence officials named Jay Stratton, he was the director of Air and Space Warfare at the Defense Intelligence Agency, and then he ran the U.S. government's UAP task force. He tells a story about how he was trying to run this issue up the flagpole and bring attention to it.
At the Pentagon.
At the Pentagon, in a serious office space. And his superiors told him that they thought these things were demons and that he was doing the devil's work by looking into it. And on camera in the film, he says, I can't believe these words were coming out of their mouths. He's like, I'm briefing them on an advanced aerospace vehicle that's absolutely there. It's been spotted by trained observers like our Navy fighter pilots in their $80 million airplanes that we trust them with, right? It's been spotted on data collection systems like satellite and radar. And this guy's telling me it's a demon. It's insane. And he's like, my mind was blown, and this is something I'm dealing with inside of the government.
It's Halloween. Let me just ask the final question for the panel. Do you think demons and the devil are real?
Absolutely. I'm a Bible-believing Christian. I definitely, and I believe those could be fallen angels.
All these things could be real.
Fallen angels?
Yeah, fallen
The
angels.
aliens are fallen angels.
That's possible. I think that's what they could be. That's what makes sense in my worldview.
Amen.
Michael?
No.
And that's why we came here to disagree, but still appreciate each other for having the conversation. Happy Halloween. Thank you very much.
All right. So to see what happened there, who is this blonde girl? That's the first thing I asked is, who is this? Is this like I think this is the Tim Burchett for Tennessee is this lady. I looked her up real quick. This is her Wikipedia page. I'll pull this up. Let me see here. It says Marjorie Taylor Greene, an American far-right politician, businesswoman, and conspiracy theorist. See, they throw this in here because they can edit it, and they decide, oh, she's a conspiracy theorist because perhaps she believes UFOs or whatever. I don't know, some other thing probably. But who has been the U.S. representative for Georgia's 14th congressional district since 2021? A member of the Republican Party, she's elected to Congress in 2020 following the retirement of Republican incumbent Tom Graves, and was reelected in 2022 and 2024. And so that's interesting, huh? So she was elected to Congress. So I find it very fascinating to follow what my government believes about this stuff, because I want to know personally, what do they believe about this stuff? Well, it's too much of her. And I am encouraged by the amount of people, specifically Christians, that understand what in the world is going on here, because I think that a lot of the world is going to be deceived by this. But see, while a lot of scientists are going to be deceived by this whole idea that, hey, look, there is something coming from outer space, or perceived to be outer space, and it's not God, Christians are going to probably know that, hey, this is probably not true, but they are going to be deceived by their loved ones appearing to them, just as they did in the Bible times. Don't worship these things. Don't do the worship that they request and the way they request to do it. You will take the mark of the beast. I'll go as far as that if you do. This is what it talks about when it talks about worship in Revelation 13. Worship, 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 worship is the mark of the beast if you do it wrong. That's how you interpret this. I can take you through a full Bible study on it. Maybe I will someday. But basically, that's what's happening here. Okay, so what's next? Well, there was a character also. I mean, we're just going to go on because a lot has happened this week. A lot has happened in the last couple times that we haven't done a live. So I want to talk a little bit about Dr. Jason Giorgiani. This guy is quite the fellow. He gives the exact understanding of what it is, what the agenda is behind this UAP stuff. Except he's not a Christian. He's something else. I'll tell you what that is in just a moment, because I got to explain a little bit more about what that means. Let him give you an intro of who he is first. Here he is.
I studied philosophy at NYU, both BA and MA, and then I went on to get my PhD at the State University of New York at Stony Brook. And the reason for that, besides the fact that I'm a native New Yorker and I loved New York and wanted to stay there, is because Stony Brook, at least at that time, was among, let's say, the top couple of philosophy departments focusing on continental thought. And I was happy to have a more continental program at Stony Brook where I did my PhD. And my thesis from 2012 evolved into my first book, Prometheus and Atlas. And that went on to win the 2016 book award from the Parapsychological Association, at which point I became very well connected very rapidly with all the leading lights in parapsychology, but also a lot of the people who have now become central to the whole UAP disclosure discussion.
All right, so did you understand what he just said here? This is interesting because he said that all this stuff that's happening right now, he said that when he did his PhD in this stuff, he wrote about it, and suddenly he got connected to all these stuff. But what did he write about? He wrote about Prometheus and Atlas. Your ears should pick up if you understand some of this terminology. Prometheus in mythology was this demon, basically, that gave fire to humanity in exchange for something. You know, it would have to make all these contracts like that demonic entities love to do. They like to make contracts. They have to go to Jesus and say, if you just bow, I mean, Satan did this. When you go to Jesus and just bow down, hey, if you bow down to me and worship, you can have all these kingdoms. If you eat this apple, you can have, you can be as God, knowing good and evil. You will not surely die. You know, all the stuff, the lie from the very beginning that your body, there's some ghost in you that is immortal and it's going to continue living and go straight to heaven. No, you're waiting in the grave until God comes. And so what this guy is absolutely saying is that he started writing about Prometheus and this whole Prometheus thing. Well, what does he write about? Why did he write about that? Listen.
I studied philosophy at NYU.
Sheldrake also,
All right. I have to preface this real quick. This is where it gets really interesting because when he was talking about this, he said, oh, yeah, but I wrote about Prometheus and I wrote about him because that's who I'm for. Understand what he means by that. If Prometheus is a demon, or worse, perhaps Lucifer himself, then he's not just for the good side, he's for the bad side. Let's listen to what he says in this interview.
Sheldrake also,
I never met
you never met Sheldrake.
No, I wrote to him.
Oh, I can introduce you.
He said, listen, mate, the problem is I'm an Anglican and you're a Satanist. And so, that's...
Are you a Satanist?
We can get into unpacking that.
Wait, that should be an easy answer for you.
Yeah.
Are you?
Well, I'm for Prometheus. So...
Okay, so he said, I'm for Prometheus. That's basically saying I'm a Satanist. Because anybody who understands the story of Prometheus understands it's talking about Satan. That's as long as I can do because everything else is outside the scope of what we're talking about tonight. But to keep it short, when you hear Prometheus, you consider this being Satan. And all the ufologists talk about Prometheus, Prometheus, Prometheus as a code word for Satanism. This is just how it is. That's what people talk about. That's what I've noticed on all this stuff. So what else did he say on this show? Listen to this.
Mm-hmm. So here is where I think actually the inception of my defamation orchestration really lies.
Yeah, I was going to ask that because it didn't make any sense. It was just so weird.
So look, I wound up very quickly within about 9 months being at the hub, at the nexus of all these people who would become key to the disclosure conversation, particularly the more sophisticated dimension of the disclosure conversation that recognizes the integral role of psionics. Number one, above all, you can see very clearly in the way in which the disclosure conversation is unfolding that certain gatekeepers connected both to a group in the United States that's loosely been referred to as the Collins elite and also to the Vatican and their assets within the United States, are attempting to spin the narrative in a direction where the NHI, as they like to call it, and this is an incredibly duplicitous and deceptive term.
NHI stands for non-human intelligence. It's what the government is saying when it says, hey, I'm talking to something and I don't know what it is. I think it's, we know as Christians, they're spirits. They're talking to non-human intelligences. They don't know what they are.
Non-human intelligence are really just the angels and demons of old.
Yeah, they are.
And the good ones, namely the angels, are the ones responsible for bringing God's revelation to the biblical prophets, for bringing Jesus Christ into the world, and also, ultimately, believe it or not, they're going to feed you this sandwich, responsible for Muhammad and the Quranic revelation as well. And the ultimate aim here is to create a kind of perennialist, traditionalist détente between all the great world religions, as they call them, so that the extremely controlled and limited contact that the human population is allowed to have with the people behind the UFOs, the pilots of the UFOs, is filtered through this matrix of interpretation where they are these enlightened celestial beings and sagacious guardians of mankind who have tried to, basically elevate us spiritually with all these revelations throughout history. But, we've been too stupid and sinful to really be able to accept their divine message, you see. That's the narrative they want to unfold.
Interesting, huh? So I think that's from his perspective on Prometheus, aka Satanism. He says, hey, they're going to try to push all religions together with this. I'm just letting you know right now that this is going to try to join all religions, and there's going to be a remnant, Revelation says, that gets out of this. What else did you get out of that? Because there was a lot he put in there, and I'm not saying you should believe what he's saying. I'm saying you should go to the Bible and see for yourself. This is going to become a real religious issue, a real worship issue, and see what's happening here. I'm just saying we're so close to the end of the time, we're seeing even the devil himself is saying, hey, this is my agenda. This is Prometheus's agenda. So isn't that interesting? Okay, one more clip I got for you tonight. This is from someone I want to interview. Her name is Diana Pasulka. I've had her clips, maybe talked about her on here before. She is truly trying to figure this out, and I respect that. She's also a professor, one that's still in doing this, and but I want to ask her questions about how she's understanding this. This is one of the Q&A sessions from another podcast when someone asked her about demons and angels with this UAP topic. Listen to this.
For Diana, do you believe the lens of angels and demons is helpful in today's context? To me, these terms ring of superstition and old world beliefs, not to mention overly simplistic. That's from UFOB. I'm sorry, I didn't say the person's name. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So this is a good question. This is one of the questions I get asked all the time. And so the framework of demons and angels, right? So this framework of non-human intelligences that have a specific, what you call context within, say, Judaism and Christianity. You see other kinds of beings and different types of religions that seem similar. Okay, so I remember when I was at the donation site, which is what Gary calls the site that I visited in New Mexico. I remember as we were coming back in the car, and he said, you know, if this was 100 years ago, we'd be calling these demons and angels. And I thought that was interesting because here you have a scientist today, Gary Nolan, you know, studying UAP and so forth, doing nuts and bolts research, you know, using this framework. But the reason he was using that framework, because the night before he showed me his research, which he just talked about at the Soul Foundation conference in Italy a couple days ago, which was the brain injury research that, you know, when people sometimes have UAP events, often it's not great, right? It's bad. They have, you know, things happen to them that are bad. And so this framework of demons and angels, in a sense, is a framework of good and bad, right? So good and bad, you know, effects. So in that sense, yes, I think that this is a helpful framework, you know, because we can, although we might not, you know, it might be archaic to say these things that we see are demons or these things that we see are angels, but the effects, there are good effects and there are bad effects.
All right, so there are good effects and bad effects. You definitely don't want to be caught up in the bad effects, and I think we've heard some people say that there are friendly spirits. Those are familiar spirits, I guess you could say, and there are different levels of how upset these spirits are, and so some of them are just being the jokester. Some of them are here for the destruction. There is lots going on, and I appreciate you guys' prayers as we continue to reveal the truth behind this. I want you also to understand we have a Patreon, patreon.com/strangenormal. I'm going to put that in the comments below. Click on that link, join us. You can join for free, and you can also join our Discord server through that link, because on that Discord server we talk about this 24/7. And we have a small community there that really helps, number one, keep the lights on here and help support us. And you can do that by going to patreon.com/strangenormal and being part of our community 24/7. It's a lot of fun to be in there. So if that's you and that's what you want to do, I could really use your help. Also, we are working on a nonprofit venture on this, and that's always scary to me because I've never done that before. If you know how to do that, I would ask you to reach out to me by email, bradley@strangenormal.org. I need to know more information about how that works and what are the caveats and what are the good and bad behind that, because I'm venturing into things I don't understand. So, and this has been a wild ride of something I just wanted to research a little bit, and I just started posting videos about it. Made a short documentary called Starfall, starfallmovie.com, and it was a hit. People liked it. It was interesting. It made sense. It was biblical. And they said, let's hear more. And that's how this podcast started. So if that's you and you want to help continue this, and you don't want me getting some random job where I have to bow down to making sure that I don't say the wrong thing online all the time to these guys, because that's what a job does. HR will take you in and go, you posted things about UFOs and you work for us, and we just don't believe that, you're out of here. So I want to make sure that I can continue doing that, and that's why I'm self-employed, doing real estate, and we're trying to do that and this at the same time. But you know, time is money, and it takes time to do both. So help us out. Join Patreon, patreon.com/strangenormal, and help us produce more of these booklets that are coming out. I'm gonna continue writing, and we'll hopefully make some more sharing material as time goes on. And of course, I'm gonna look at the chat real quick to see how you guys are all doing in there. I see some regulars tonight, and I see when is the Spokane speaking thing? Oh yeah, okay, I can show you that. That is on. This is the website. You can go to avantgardeoutreach.com. AVANTGARDE outreach OUTREACH.com. And you can see all the information there, who's speaking and everything like that. It says it's on November 23. Let me see if I can bring up my No, I can't bring up the calendar. But it's a free community event. I'm not sure if it's going to be at the church as well. I'm going to try to push that onto the posts section of YouTube. So make sure you check back there. We're going to be doing more information so you know where we are. And that was good. Thank you so much for saying that, Amanda R., because we needed to make sure people knew about that very badly. Let me read down through here real quick. Hans, thank you for posting the link. Let me see if there's any other questions. Please don't become a nonprofit. You'll be scrutinized and censored. Tell me more. Maybe I shouldn't become one. But sure is hard taking 33% of my taxes out of this donations, because when I should be making 33% more booklets. So that's what I'm struggling with right now. And also, you know, it's there's a lot of caveats to doing that. So yeah, maybe there is. Maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't. But we'll see. Is it in Washington or Idaho? Well, technically it's in Washington. I mean, I'm sorry. Technically it's in Idaho. It's at the tip of Idaho in, let's find out where exactly. Templeton's on the River Hotel. That's the public place that we're doing it. But we're also doing it in a church in the area. It's a smaller church. And there are going to be two different presentations. One's going to be heavily Seventh-day Adventist, and the other one's going to be primarily just focused on Sola Scriptura. And so we're going to present it in both ways because, you know, different people have different ways they want to hear it. And so, where did I go? Let me find out when what church is in. I don't remember what church it's in, so I got to check on that. But it's technically in Idaho. I'm flying into Spokane because it's so close to wherever I'm going to be. Reading. Thank you, Jonathan. Says, be a beacon of light. Be a beacon of light among the people. A lot of people don't know how to approach this topic. Yeah, I agree. Communicating with thousands. Yeah. What day street the church? Day ST. Let me check. See, I don't know that because I got to look at my calendar. But I know it's not this weekend. It's the next weekend. Not the next weekend. So it is not this weekend. It's the next weekend. Yeah. So it's the. Checking my calendar here. If the Sunday is the 23rd, then we are speaking on the at the church on the 22nd. And so that would be not this weekend, but the following weekend in Idaho. Idaho, the tip of Idaho, close to Spokane, Washington. Really? I didn't know anything about that, Kathy. Yeah, email me more because I don't want to say anything incorrectly on the channel. That's really interesting that you can't say things like that when you are part of the nonprofit. You become part of the UN. I don't know anything about that. So I'm not opposed to research, and so I need to dig into it further. I do know I'm not thrilled about some of these other 5.0 agencies. Because I worry I have to become like a church, and I don't want to become like a church. I want to be a part of sharing the truth with a church that I agree with. And so I'm not my own church, which I think is something different. But yeah, send your questions. You can type them out here in the chat or in the comments. I'll try to respond to them. Or you can email me if it's a private question at bradley@strangenormal.org. That's BRADLEY@strangenormal.org. Make sure it's not .com. It will go nowhere and disappear. .org. Let's see. Yeah. You don't have to be a church, Lisa says. Yeah, email me. I everything I've read says you do, and so I'm not sure I want to get into that fiasco if that's true. And so you're reading between the lines because I don't want to say I don't want to say anything negative towards anybody else. So I deeply am friends with some great people that are doing some great work, and so I'm trying to do my best to do what I know is good too. Still reading here, and let's talk about this privately. I want to understand a little better what the truth is about ministries. I was director of nonprofit. That's not always. I was a director of a nonprofit and was always told by the government officials what I could say and what I couldn't say. This was a food bank and a homeless shelter. Ugh. Who wants to become a nonprofit that can't say specific things? That would be bad. But don't you just lose your nonprofit status? I think, right? So, I mean, here's the deal, folks. If I've had some big people contact me and they say, hey, if you're a nonprofit, we can help you out. And doctors, maybe dentists, someone in the medical field, and we can do this and make a lot more a lot more of these booklets go forward. And who doesn't want to help press this message forward, especially if it can be exponential? Well, you can only do that through nonprofit status because they get a tax write-off and everyone wins at that, at least until the end of the age. So, or at least until we're told not to. And then we can just go back to for-profit status, and I don't think you get jailed for saying something you shouldn't say. So that's my conflict right now. Yeah, 501c3, I don't know what it is, 503c. Whatever it's called, but it's the nonprofit. You can give tax donations and receipts. I've seen different people do it different ways, and so I'm still researching how to do that. If you know how to do that, great. Please email me. We need to know better how to do this because I'm not going to go into this blind. There's wisdom in counselors. So that's it. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. If there's any more questions, submit them now. We have 30 seconds, or I'll give you 60 seconds, and I'll close out with prayer. If you have any more questions, submit them in the chat, and we'll go from there. I think he's part of a group. Okay. Yeah, I've been in communication with Pastor James at Advent Media Connect. And he was at GC. I met him at GC, and we've been on each other's channel, so he's a nice guy. I'll talk to him a little bit more. Yeah, Doug is Pastor Batchelor is a nonprofit as well. I could ask him. He's so big, though. He has 100 people under him managing that, so he doesn't know the intricacies of it as well as a smaller ministry might. And so he was my boss for 10 years. So I could ask him, but I don't think his focus is finances right now. His focus is evangelism. But that's a good idea. Yeah. Free speech is going away. 3A Atlas will be visible November 11th. Really? Oh, yeah, I'm going to get my telescope and look at it. That'd be cool. Praying for clarity. Thank you, Elabella. I've heard about this trust thing. Yeah, I need to create a trust. I need to do that. He might be able to direct me to someone who could. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I'll dig into that. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Let's close with prayer. I'll check the chat one more time for any questions. Oh, there's one that came in. Hans, what do you think about the rise of... I don't know about this. Who is this? Maybe I don't. Maybe I do know him. Just a second. Let me Google this real quick. Who is this guy? Oh, this guy. Yeah, where did he come from? This
Diana, do you believe the lens of angels and demons is...
Sorry, I don't know how that started up. I meant to hit this button instead. This guy, Nick, I got a question from the chat. What do you think about the rise of Nick Frew, whatever his name is? This guy came out of nowhere. I mean, absolute nowhere. And it just started blowing up the internet. And so I'm really curious why that is. I don't know. And I haven't dug into him. I just know he's super controversial. And I don't. Does he talk about UAPs? Because I don't really dig into someone unless unless they talk about UAPs. But it is interesting. I have noticed that he's just all over the place in everything right now. America First. Okay. Very good. He's a plant. Possibly. Haven't seen him yet. I don't know. Everyone has an opinion on him. Boy, this is blowing up. He's not really a UAP person. Interviewed with Tucker. Yeah, I saw a lot of comments on that video saying, "Hey, this is the one that's going to break the internet." I don't know why. He just seems like a young kid, but he seems very, very opinionated. Maybe he's like Charlie Kirk or something. I don't know. But I didn't know anything about Charlie Kirk either until, well, I did know a little bit about him, about his folding desk he set up at universities and would say, "Change my mind." But I didn't know who the name was. I just remember the kid. So maybe he's that. I don't know. You guys might be surprised. I'm very disconnected when it comes to news. Very disconnected. The only thing I research is pretty much what people send me. And I don't watch. My parents call it the bad news. The bad news comes on at 8, 9, and 10 o'clock at night. Nah, I don't watch it. I don't know much about him, but interesting how he stepped into the scene after Charlie Kirk. Is he a political side marker like Charlie Kirk was? Probably that's why then. Me too. I'm figuring out Charlie and Nick right now. Yeah, I'll dig into him. I'm wondering why he's so prominent and so popular right now. It's very interesting. Oh, thank you, Bunny. Appreciate it. You have to have an attorney set it up for you. So my advice would just be talk to an attorney. Attorneys. Sorry, attorneys. If you're an attorney out there, you guys scare me. That's all I have to say. Oh, okay, he's right wing. This is one of the news platforms. This is a news. Yeah, well, yeah, this is a very, very focused news platform. We're like a laser sharp. I like to say I'm a radioactive freight train going after this topic. Don't get in my way. Make a shirt with a radioactive freight train on it. He is more of a shock jock type on politics. Yeah, that would make sense. That's why he's going so much viral. That's the only way you get so viral these days is by rocking the boat quite a bit. Better for attorney, but usually candor it with without the cost. Where can I find the exact church which is located for your presentation in Idaho? Okay, let me check. Since you asked, I will sit back and do a little research on that. Dig through my text messages. Reading. Looks like it will be at Spirit Lake Church. They're a small country church. Hayden Church and Sandpoint are huge. There's a couple people that said they wanted to do it there, but they didn't know I was coming, so they couldn't arrange it in time. But Spirit Lake will be the church I will be presenting at. And I assume it's over there by that area. Let me bring up the map here so I know exactly where that is. Are you familiar with that church? Lost who asked that now. Oh, Nancy. Are you familiar with that church? Pull up the maps. Spirit Lake. So they tell me it's in this location right here. This is for the Saturday presentation. And I assume that's where it's going to be. I hope I have that one right. If not, I'll make a correction. But they told me Spirit Lake Church, and I hope this is correct because that's all I know. But then the actual presentations on Sunday for the rest of the community will be held at Templeton's on the River Hotel. So let's look that up. Let's do a direction so we see what the difference is. Oh my, okay. Half an hour away, and it's not bad. So it's going to be down here on the river at this place, Red Lion Hotel. And I assume Spirit Lake is where it's going to be on the first day, or Saturday, the 7th day, down there. But again, I don't know. Half the time I don't know until I get there. So I can only go by the names of it. See him read up. Yeah, it's this is a free speech channel. I'm a free speech advocate. Why are we talking about free speech all the time? I missed the question. But anyway, yeah, it's gonna be, the presentations are gonna be down there. All right, there's nothing more to see here. I'm just gabbing now and answering questions and hanging out with you guys because the presentation's over. But my wife probably wonders where I am. She actually keeps the YouTube channel on and running in the other room so she knows when I'm done. So she's probably hearing this and saying, "Don't talk about me." I'll take a lot of pictures. In fact, I got a lot of pictures. I thought I was going to actually present my pictures from Denmark and all this other stuff that I've been to this week, but I thought people don't care. You guys don't care about the pictures from all these places, but maybe you do. Maybe I'll just do a sideshow, and so anybody that is interested can watch that, because usually what we just do is talk about the actual news or what's happening with this UAP stuff. But okay, so look forward to that. We might do that after all. I'll show you what has been going on in the adventures around the world. And talking to so many people, so many neat people that are also strangers that watch the program. Okay, guys, that's it for tonight. I'm going to close out. Let's close out with prayer. My wife will not be on a show. No, Judah. She will have nothing to do with public appearances. She's very introverted. But that's funny. I only laugh at that because I know her personality, and I'm the weird one that wants to be on the internet. And so that's what she would think anyway. I would love it if she was on, but I can guarantee you she would melt into the floor if she had to be in front of thousands of people. So, folks, let's have a blessed night, and I'll close with prayer. Father God, thank you so much for giving us time to dig into these topics and fellowship. Guide us and direct us and help us to stay in your way. Focus our time on you, and give us peace and help us to bring many people to Christ as we go about your day in your method. We love you, God, and we look forward to the day where we can lay our crowns at your feet, in your kingdom, by your throne. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Folks, I'm going to update these credits someday. This is everyone that has helped out in Patreon. Join us, patreon.com/strangenormal. I will update it next week. That's all I have for tonight. Again, my name is Bradley, and this has been Pure Strangeness and Absolute Normalcy. Strange Normal. We'll see you next time.
You're watching Strange Normal, where the truth is the truth.